Why can the UK not manage to get Brexit done, whereas the EU has managed to get Brexit done in terms of implementing the customs arrangements? My name's Mike Cashman, so I'll say more about that question in just a moment. But if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to the channel, and please do support the channel by buying some of the books or music. Only a £5 will get you one of the paperback books, well, £5.95, but the whole lot together, the bargain price of £14.95, or £10 for the music CDs, Brexit's Musical Trick, or I don't beg pardon, I'm talking Bullocks from the Rose Garden, or for £12.95 you can get that on USB. So that would support the channel, not actually financially. None of the profit goes anywhere except to coronavirus charities. But if you buy some of this, and this isn't me rabbiting on talking, it's all satirical comedy, verse, songs, etc. Greatest presents. If you do support the channel, then that is a little bit of an encouragement. Right, enough of that. Why can't the UK get Brexit done? I've come to the conclusion that it's because this government can't get anything done, though I will make a couple of exceptions to that, essentially the vaccination rollout and the government's pet project, which I'll come to. But if we look at area after area, what the government seems to be involved in is getting us used to the results that are inadequate. So on Brexit, the can is kicked down the road time after time. Is the government ever actually going to implement what it proposed to do? The EU prepared for Brexit and put in place arrangements for customs according to the new rules. The UK government appears to have been totally taken by surprise by its own Brexit. If it went out in the rain, I think it would be surprised if it got wet. So senior HMRC civil servant, Revenue and Customs, has reported that government is losing £800 million a quarter because it's not collecting customs duties. So that's more than £3 billion a year. This is all from incompetent implementation. The government set the timescale. The government said we have enough time to do that in 2020. The government is now saying we need more time. Incompetence, project management incompetence. And it feels like it's getting normalised. You know, push back the deadlines yet again. Well, that's been done before. You know, get used to it. Are they going to be pushed back past the next election? So another area that illustrates the same point is coronavirus. So the government seems to want us to get used to deaths at a rate of 50,000 deaths a year. Now that's about 150 per day. There have been tragedies, mass shootings in Paris, in Garissa, in Kenya. I walked around the memorial there in Nairobi. 150 deaths, and people were appalled for that single occasion. But the government is expecting us to get used to that number every day, day in, day out, week in, week out, and it will probably get worse when the schools go back. One hopes not. One hopes that the effect of the booster jab and vaccination of younger children will make a difference. But that very high level of deaths is accepted. The government is trying to restrain it to that. The language of living with the virus is all about putting up with the government's failure to control the virus. Some people say, for example, well, put this in context, the level of cancer deaths at 450 a day is 3 times the number from coronavirus. We have to get used to significant numbers of deaths. The difference is cancer is not an infectious disease. I won't say that there's nothing that can be done about cancer, because there's lots of research going into cancer to try and reduce the cancer deaths. But there are measures that can be taken to reduce the number of coronavirus deaths. It is within government, or it should be within government competence. Clearly, we're in a position where we are now facing 50,000 coronavirus deaths per year, which wasn't happening a couple of years ago, and we don't want to be happening in a couple of years' time. 150 deaths a day, the government can make a difference. In other areas, if 150 deaths occurred, people would be concerned, and they should be for coronavirus, and that is every day. So it's not the same as cancer. Now, this is not hindsight. Back in the middle of May, I spoke on Radio 4 Any Answers and pointed out then that the Delta variant was something to worry about when there wasn't much worry about it, and the government was saying, oh, the numbers are very small. The maths of exponentials, which basically means that if, for example, things double every week, then they get very much bigger very quickly, means you shouldn't be worrying so much about what the numbers are now. You should be worrying about how much it's growing. The government didn't. And if the restrictions had been continued for longer, then they could have got us to a point where the vaccination rate was much higher and would have gone into the no restrictions time with a much lower rate of cases, infections, hospitalizations and deaths. Government was busy saying, we've broken the link between cases and deaths. Well, not for 150 people a day. You haven't. So it's another case where the government is seeking to get us used to a bad outcome. The next time that Boris Johnson says, I have to level with you folks, you know that he's declaring some bad outcomes, some bad results that the government has no plan to do anything about, because it is not a planner. It doesn't look long term. Look, I've talked about the lack of focus on outcomes, the lack of long-term planning. That hasn't necessarily cut through. It's not necessarily a language everybody relates to. What it boils down to is this government does not achieve anything. In fairness, I said I'll make one exception, which is the vaccination rollout. It was a good appointment to put Kate Bingham in charge. That's the right sort of occasion to make a rapid decision, the right sort of person to appoint. And she really knew what she was doing. And obviously the tremendous efforts of the NHS, the Army and everything else have helped to make that a substantial success and make a difference. The other exception I would quote to the government's lack of long-term planning is its demolition of democracy, because they're actually quite purposeful in eroding the power of the courts in judicial review, seeking to direct the Electoral Commission according to their wishes, substantially curbing the right to protest. What are they so afraid of? Cutting down the rights of people to vote. Now, this is a long-term plan, but it doesn't need to be a coordinated plan. They can make those separate initiatives, knowing in each case that reduces people power and increases government power. So that, I say, is that is purposeful. That is something to worry about. Perhaps it shows that where the government has got something that they're really concerned about, they can manage to focus. Oh, I cut my finger the other day, so had to open a new packet of plasters, or a new hospital, as Sajid Javid would call it. Sorry, that was jokers stolen from James O'Brien. The government has no capability to make things better. It only has the capability to tell us about what it claims to be doing. So, 40 new hospitals, we know is a con. Sajid Javid went and opened up a new cancer wing of a hospital, said this is one of the 40 new hospitals. It wasn't. It was part of the planning anyway. This was happening without any intervention by Boris Johnson, but Sajid Javid sought to get the glory for it. So the summary is, because of their lack of focus on outcomes, on the end goal, if you like, because of their lack of long-term planning, then in any area you look at, Brexit, COVID, Afghanistan, then the Tories do not have a focus on what they are seeking to achieve. And they're not achieving things. They're just achieving excuses. Take the care plan. The trouble with the plan for social care, I've said elsewhere, is that it does not contain a plan for social care. You can't tell me anything about what improvements will be achieved by that. I don't think. You can't describe any aspect of it. I would anticipate, other than talking about the money that's been raised, which is not all going into social care. It's been an excuse for a big tax rise. So that's a message which we have to be worried about if the end result is that people are satisfied with the government achieving nothing, whether it's on Brexit, COVID, or anything else. Another example, crony contracting. So in 2020, I and several others were trying to bring this matter to greater public attention, to make people aware of it. And I honestly thought that if the news broke, that heads would roll and something would be done. Where are we? It's 2021. There is a much greater public perception of this. MPs are aware, it's raised in Parliament. And of course, the Good Law Project has made significant progress. But overall, is the government ashamed? No. Have people been sacked because of this? No. Have the illicit profits been confiscated? No. People who had no capability at providing PPE have gained enormous profits and bought themselves mansions with the results and are sitting there happily. And now, if crony contracting stories come up, what I fear is that people will look at this and say, oh yes, we've heard these stories before, it's more of the same. It's become normalised. That's dreadful that such corruption can happen, but it's even worse if we have got used to it. I'm, as I said, seeking to put over a different message, and I seek your support, and a tangible indication of that support is put your hand in your pocket, think of who you'd like to buy a present for, get hold of some of the books or music. You would enjoy it. Person you're giving it to as a present would enjoy it if you're giving it as a present, and you'll have some fun as a result. It'll help to spread a message and raise some money for good causes, coronavirus charity. That's my thoughts anyway. Please subscribe to the channel, support the channel, and add your views into the video comments. Thank you.